Rainbow Six Siege has evolved and changed drastically over the past 9 years of its development, and with that, a lot of features have been lost to time. Because of this, in today's video, I'll be going back and showing you 13 things that I want Ubisoft to bring back from old Siege. Let me know whether you agree or disagree with my list, and if there is something you thought I missed, make sure you leave it in the comments down below. Now let's go ahead and get into the video. Now, the first and arguably the biggest thing I want Ubisoft to bring back to Siege is night maps. If you don't know, Siege used to have night variations of every map in the game. These variants of the maps often looked a lot better because the lighting was a lot cleaner on these maps, and it also just made for an interesting gameplay experience. I don't really see why these maps aren't offered in the game anymore. The original reason why these maps were removed is because the difference between the outside lighting and the inside lighting was significant, and so it made it hard for people to see very well on these maps. But considering that the Siege lighting system has already been reworked to get rid of that issue, I think night maps would be a really good addition back to the game. And they don't even necessarily have to be added back into ranked. I just think that they should be added back into casual because a lot of people want to see them return, and I don't really see the downside to adding them to quick match. Now, anyways, moving past night maps, we now have something that was removed quite recently, and that is terrorist hunt. I don't think many people will be surprised by terrorist hunt being in this video because almost everyone agrees that terrorist hunt should have never been removed. Terrorist hunt was by far everyone's favorite way to warm up for a ranked match, but it wasn't only good for just that. It was also just a really unique gameplay experience overall. I know a lot of newer players who enjoyed playing T-Hunt just to learn the maps, and that just enjoyed playing the situations for free renown and for fun. Terrorist Hunt will always hold a special place in my heart because it was one of the things that helped me learn a lot about Siege, and so I'm sad to see it go for no real announced reason. I think the reason why Ubisoft removed Terrorist Hunt is because they're adding the new AI playlist where you can play against AI operators, but I still don't think that game mode can hold the same purpose that Terrorist Hunt had, which was Terrorist Hunt functioned as an amazing warm-up, and it really just played unlike anything else in Siege. Anyways, moving past Terrorist Hunt, I now want to discuss two of the maps that I want to see go back to their pre-rework state, those being House and Hereford Base. This is something that I miss a lot from old Siege. Old House used to be extremely fun because it offered the ability for you to play Garage Wars, and because of the layout, it was the perfect map for 1v1s. I know the map was very spawn peak heavy, and I know it had a lot of problems, but in my opinion, for a quick match map, it was still a whole lot of fun. And the reworked version of House kind of ruined a lot of the fun factor that it had in quick match. Same thing applies to Hereford Base. The old Hereford Base is probably the most iconic map in Siege, and that's because of how much fun it was in custom games, and because of all the iconic moments that have happened on this map. It just functioned as the perfect quick match map, and I don't really understand why Ubisoft decided to rework it to try to make it fit ranked, because at the end of the day, they didn't succeed, and the map isn't nearly as fun as it used to be. Anyways, now moving past the maps, the fourth thing that I'd like to see get brought back from old Siege is the old operator icons. Siege's old operator icons used to have way more detail. For example, Mute's icon used to have this distortion effect over it that fit his gadget. Castle and Pulse's icons used to have better lighting, and every icon had a lot more shadows and depth to them. The newer icons just look more flat and less detailed, and they just don't look nearly as good. Plus, the little black transparent outline that goes around all the newer icons makes them very annoying to work with on thumbnails or anything else as a content creator. All of this combines to make the redesigns just objectively worse in my opinion. I understand why Ubisoft probably did this. I'm assuming they did it to save on file size, because I can imagine that this change probably did have an effect on the file size of the game a little bit, but I still think the old icons looked a lot better, and I think the extra file size would have been justified. Now, the fifth thing that I'd like to see get added back from old Siege is the select fire option on weapons. Now, if you guys don't know, in old Siege, you used to have the ability to click a button on your keyboard, and it would alter the firing mode of your weapon. If you were using an automatic assault rifle, for example, you could change it into burst fire or single fire mode, which burst fire allowed it to function like a burst rifle, obviously, and then single fire allowed it to function kind of like a DMR. The reason why I'd like to see this setting get brought back is because as the game has evolved over time, recoil has gotten more and more difficult to control for newer players. Because of this, I genuinely think that the burst and single fire options would be a great addition to the game. It would allow players to control recoil a lot easier, and honestly, it was a feature that I don't really understand why they removed. The only explanation I've been able to find is that they removed it because players were abusing macros with it, but considering the kind of blatant cheats that cheaters have gotten nowadays, I don't think macros would be that significant of a deal compared to other options on the market already. So because of that reason, I don't think the disadvantages outweigh the advantages of bringing this system back, and so I really hope that Ubisoft considers bringing it back at some point. Now, the sixth thing I'd like to see return from old Siege is quite simple, and that is just Jaeger ACOG. Over the years, Jaeger's gun has been nerfed a lot, and it's become one of the worst weapons in Siege. Because of that, I don't think there's been any time like the present to bring back ACOG onto the weapon. It wouldn't make his gun overpowered because it's its damage isn't really that good and its magazine size is kind of small as well. All it would do is help even out the playing field on Jaeger's weapon compared to other options on the defense. Considering that operators like Wamai have an ACOG, I don't see why Jaeger can't have one too. Now, the seventh thing I'd like to see return is rematching your enemy team in ranked. If you don't know, way back in the day in the really early versions of Siege, you used to be able to click a button in the in-game screen after a match to then rematch the enemy team. However, for the rematch to actually happen, the entire enemy team would have to vote to rematch you, and your entire team would have to vote to rematch. This allowed for some really cool moments in ranked, because if you had a really close match that was enjoyable, you and the enemy team could choose to run it back one more time, or if you were just mad about the enemy team taking your elo, you could try to take it back from them by rematching them. I'm assuming the reason why this was removed is because of the fact that people probably used it to boost MMR in Siege, but I still think if they could find a way to combat that, this would be a pretty cool feature to bring back. Now, the eighth thing that I'd like to see return from old Siege is the menus and loading screens that Ubisoft used to do for the old seasons. Old seasons used to have these really unique loading screens when you boot up the game that would have music unique to the season playing in the background, and once you booted into the menu, you'd see the new operators of that season moving in the background doing some form of animation. These old loading screens and menus were really cool, and they're way better than the ones that we get now. I'd really like to see these come back at some point, but I do understand why Ubisoft stopped doing them, because obviously there's a lot of resources that go into this stuff, and also these loading screens and menus probably take up a lot of space on your disc. But still, I have a lot of nostalgia for these, and I'd like to see them come back at some point. Now, the ninth thing that I'd like to see return from old Siege is the in-game CGI cinematics for all the new operators. When the game first released, Ubisoft gave every base game operator their own unique cinematic in-game that you could watch, and these cinematics normally built on the character's personality and kind of explain their gadget. These were really cool in my opinion, and they allowed players to get an interesting look at an operator before they purchase them. They wouldn't even have to necessarily make new cinematics, because they already make cinematics for new operators as advertising on YouTube and stuff, so they could just put those cinematics in game. Now, the 10th thing that I'd like to see come back into Siege is Bartlett University. This map was removed from all playlists a while ago due to its controversial nature. However, I really do miss this map in casual, and I think if it got a decent rework, it could even come into rank. This map has offered a lot of iconic moments, and for me and my friends, we used to have a ton of fun in custom game on this map, and so seeing it return maybe just into quick match would be pretty cool. Now, moving past Bartlett University, the next thing that I like to see return from old Siege is old barbed wire. If you don't know, way back in the really early days of Siege, barbed wire used to make you a lot slower than it does today when you tried to walk through it, and it used to take 3 melee hits to destroy. This made barbed wire really strong, and it forced the attackers to actually waste utility to get rid of it. I think this would be a great addition to Siege because it would stop the fragging heavy nature that the game is in right now, and so I think if we brought back some of the old strong pieces of utility like barbed wire into the game, it could potentially help deal with that. Now, another thing that I'd like to see get brought back that honestly wasn't removed that long ago is F2 vertical grip. The reason why I want to see F2 vertical grip get brought back is because I don't think this balancing decision was a very smart one. Me personally, I don't like it when Ubisoft decides to nerf guns by increasing their recoil. It just makes the gun not accessible by most of the community, and it just forces them onto a different weapon. What I think would have been a better decision for balancing the F2 would have been to nerf its damage or nerf its fire rate in some way. I don't think removing the vertical grip was very smart, because all it really did was force players off of the weapon entirely. It doesn't even really give them a choice to still run in the weapon because of how uncontrollable it is and inconsistent the recoil pattern is. Now, the 13th and final thing that I'd like to see return from old Siege is grenade cooking. Now, I know this feature was removed very recently, and I understand the reasons why it was removed. Grenade cooking was problematic because it allowed the attackers to go below under the bomb site and to cook a grenade and immediately kill you without you even being able to react. However, I think there would have been better ways to nerf grenades other than just outright removing cooking as an option. I think instead what Ubisoft should have done is make grenades not do nearly as much damage through surfaces, or just outright remove their ability to do damage through surfaces. This would still allow players to work together as a team and to use grenades as a tool to kill a player in a power position, which should be rewarded, but it would also remove the ability for attackers to just go below and kill players inside of the bomb site without them even being able to react. I think that would have been a much smarter balancing decision, and I still disagree with the idea of just removing cooking from grenades. It makes their use cases a lot more niche, and it still potentially allows attackers to get kills with the grenades that they otherwise shouldn't be able to because of the fact that the grenade still goes through surfaces. Anyways, that is going to wrap up today's video. As always, this video is strictly my opinion, and if you disagree with any of my selection in this video, feel free to leave your opinions in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, I make Siege content just like this twice a week, so go subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter if you don't want to miss the next upload. Also, I have a second channel where I upload non-Siege content, so if that's something you're interested in, I'll leave a link in the description so you can go check it out. If you want to watch another video just like this one, I'll be popping up on your screen right now that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Also, if you want to watch a video from that second channel I mentioned, a video from that channel will be popping up on your screen right now as well. I'll see you next time, friends, and peace.